Good morning. I hope everyone is well, enjoying this beautiful sunshine today. We are going to continue with our stories of Joseph. This continuation starts with Joseph's dreams. He is able to read or interpret the dreams, and actually the story says Pharaoh's dreams, not Joseph's dreams, so I will correct that. 2 years had passed, and still Joseph was in jail. Then one night Pharaoh had a strange dream. He was standing by the river Nile, and while he watched, 7 cows, fat and healthy, came out of the water to feed. A while later, 7 thin cows came out of the river, so lean and bony they could hardly stand. The thin cows ate up the fat cows. Pharaoh woke with a start. Then he fell asleep and dreamed again. This time he saw 7 ears of wheat growing plump and golden on a single stalk. Then he saw 7 shriveled ears of wheat, which ate up the 7 large ones. In the morning, Pharaoh demanded that someone be found to explain these dreams. All the wise men and the magicians were brought before Pharaoh, but no one could tell him the meaning of his dreams. It was then that the cupbearer remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh how he had correctly interpreted both his and the baker's dreams. Joseph was immediately released from prison and brought before Pharaoh. After thinking for a moment, Joseph said, "God has revealed to me what your dreams mean. Egypt is about to enjoy 7 years of great plenty, to be followed by 7 years of terrible famine. In the time of plenty, you must save grain from the harvest and store it, so that there will be enough to eat during the famine." Pharaoh was so impressed by Joseph that he decided to promote him to the highest office. Pulling the ring from his own finger, he gave it to Joseph. Then he hung a heavy gold chain around his neck and dressed him in fine linens. He presented him with a magnificent chariot. "You shall be ruler of the whole of Egypt," he declared, "second in power only to myself." Under Joseph's supervision, grain was gathered and stored during the 7 years of good harvest. Then when the lean years arrived, there was more than enough for all. There was so much that people came from distant lands to buy grain, for the famine was everywhere. Anybody have any idea who's going to show up to buy grain? Dun, dun, dun. Who, Warren?
The brothers.
The brothers. Very good. This part is Joseph, the governor. The famine was spread to Canaan, and Joseph's father, Jacob, saw that his people were hungry. So he sent 10 of his sons to Egypt to buy wheat. He kept Benjamin, his beloved youngest son, at home with him. The brothers set off on their long journey from Canaan to Egypt. They found their way to the governor, who was their brother Joseph. Once in his presence, they knelt humbly before him, their faces pressed to the ground. Joseph knew at once who they were, but they did not recognize him because of the nice clothes he was wearing. He spoke accusingly to them. "You are spies, coming here to spy on Egypt." "No," they protested. "We're from Canaan, here to buy grain. We were 12, but the youngest is at home with our father, and one of us is dead." "Why should I believe you?" Joseph said. "You must prove you are not spies. You shall return to Canaan to fetch the youngest. Then I will know if you're telling the truth." But first Joseph had the brothers thrown into prison for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, they were brought again before him. "Take this wheat back to your land," he said, "but bring your youngest brother here, or I shall have you all put to death. And to make sure you obey me, I shall keep one of you here as a hostage." The brothers trembled. They felt guilty and believed that this was punishment for the way they had treated Joseph. As they whispered among themselves, Joseph listened to them. silently weeping at the sight of their frightened faces. He had spoken through an interpreter, and they knew they did not realize he could understand everything that they said. Suddenly, he gave the order for one of the brothers, Simeon, to be bound in front of them and put in jail. Then he had the sacks of the others filled with wheat, and the silver they had brought to pay for it secretly replaced. Lastly, he gave them food before sending them on their way. Overnight on the journey home, one of the brothers opened his sack to get wheat for his donkey and saw the returned silver. "What does this mean?" they asked each other nervously. Once back in Canaan, they told Jacob, their father, everything. "My children, you are being taken away from me, first Joseph and then Simeon. And now you want to take Benjamin, but you shall not take my youngest son from me. If harm came to him, I would go to my grave in sorrow." So, we are going to see now what happens when they head back to Egypt. Soon all the grain was gone, and Jacob told his sons that they must go again to Egypt and buy food. "We cannot go without Benjamin," said Judah. Jacob was unhappy, but Judah promised to look after his brother and bring him safely home. "You must take a present for this all-powerful governor," said Jacob. "Take the best of our land that our land has to offer, honey, spices, balm, myrrh, and plenty of silver to pay for that wheat." Again, the brothers went to Joseph, who invited them to eat at his house. They were welcomed by his steward and joyfully reunited with their brother Simeon. When Joseph entered, they bowed low and laid their presents before him. At the sight of Benjamin, Joseph was so moved that he left the room and wept. On returning, he offered them the best he had in food and wine, and to Benjamin he gave 5 times more to eat and drink. After dinner, Joseph ordered his men to fill the brothers' sacks with grain and put back the money they had brought with them. In Benjamin's sack, he hid a silver cup of his own. And the brothers left as soon as it was light, but they hadn't gone far when Joseph's steward caught up with them. He searched their sacks, and when the cup was found in Benjamin's sack, the steward had them all arrested and taken back to the city. Once more at Joseph's house, the brothers threw themselves on the ground begging for mercy. "You may all go," said Joseph, "except for the man whose sack the goblet was found in. He shall stay and be my servant." "Do not keep Benjamin," Judah implored him. "If he does not return, my father will die of grief, for he loves him dearly, and he already lost one son. I beg you to keep me instead." Then Joseph felt that his heart would break, and so he couldn't bear it any longer. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold as a slave, but now I am Pharaoh's chief advisor and governor of all Egypt. You must come and settle here, for there are 5 more years of famine to suffer. Bring all you have, your flocks and your herds, and I will look after you. Tell my father what you have seen." And he threw his arms around Benjamin and wept, and he kissed all of his brothers. The brothers returned to Canaan and told Jacob that Joseph was alive. Jacob was so full of joy at the news, he agreed at once to go with them to Egypt, and there they made their home. This is quite a story. This young man became from a slave into a governor, and we will be sending you the craft in the mail for those that haven't made it to Sunday this morning, and I hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you soon.